Hello, my name is Marli Vivian Pinheiro Lopes de Araújo, and today I'm going to present an overview of the United States. This assignment presents a brief perspective of the United States. It is divided into four parts. First, we have an economic overview and some example of economic reforms and growth rates. Then we talk about the fiscal crisis of 2007-2008. Then we talk about the definition of comparative advantage as well as some of the United States comparative advantage. And finally, we talk about the US future perspectives. All right, the United States represent prosperity, money, opportunities. It is the fourth biggest country in the world, and it has 50 states and more than 300 million people. It has a vast territory with a variety of environments, but its big differential is its greatest economy. The economy is the first topic here, and although China is getting very near the United States, the US is still the most powerful country. So we have three factors to consider which influence the economy here. So first we have this agricultural output. So since it has a vast territory with a variety of environment, it allows the country to produce products, and that makes the country not to produce only internally but also externally, so they can export the products. Also, many companies and business are created here, but also companies for different countries, they come here because here is the place that they have more chance to get bigger and to have more contact opportunities here. And finally, the biggest factor that influence the economy here is the consumption. So people used to consume a lot, but because we have like the problem with the COVID, a lot of people reduce consuming because we have like the uncertainties. We didn't know what would happen. People lost their jobs, so they have to hold the money. And then like on the past years, we have a very significant decrease on this sector. But the United States had suffered, of course, some crises in the past, but this one was a little bit different because, well, everybody was locked at home, so we have some issues, and countries have to close the borders. We have to stay at home. A lot of people lost their houses, they lost their jobs. So the government, it had to intervene so they could create like a fiscal stimulus to help the economy to grow, to start growing again. So now we can see that we're still talking about inflation and recession, but the country slowly is start to getting positive numbers and a positive growth. The 2007 and 2008 fiscal crisis, there was like also a crisis that affected the United States a lot. So a lot of people, they lost their houses, business and banks went bankrupt, business could not pay their bills. So, and was not only here in the US, it was expanded to a global banking crisis. So 2007 was the peak of the mortgage crisis. So people, they bought house before because there was really good to them, but at some point they had to return the houses to the banks because they didn't have money to pay. And what the issue was that the banks, they got the house back, but so what? People didn't have money to buy those houses, and the house doesn't mean anything. They need money. So that created a huge bubble, which the banks collapsed, and as a result, we have a great recession. So of course, this is just a brief. The crisis was more complex than that, but what was important here is that we have like the intervention of the government throughout the monetary policy. So this is like a mechanism that allowed the government to intervene and help the economy to have like to grow again, to have stability. So here the government they passed the American Recovery and Investment Act, and it included 800 billion to recover the economy. And also they help create another program so they could help owners to avoid foreclosure. So this is just a brief, and this is another fiscal crisis that the United States had previously, but it was able to overcome. Comparative advantages are quite interesting topic. So basically, it's countries they have their qualities, they have their particularities, technology and production, and that's what the comparative advantage is about. So basically, we have a country that produces something, and we have a country that does not. So this country that does not, they come to country A so they can get those products. And the comparative advantage refers to endowment of which country and how much capital, labor, and resource the country has. All right, so here let's talk about the United States comparative advantages. So as we mentioned earlier, it has a vast territory, and they can produce in agricultural output, so they can produce a lot of products such as soybeans, meat, and corn. And also the country export machinery and equipment, so that's the comparative advantages that the country has. And also let's talk about a little bit about advantages and disadvantages of this comparative advantage. So the advantage, of course, is that we have globalization. So countries can trade products. They can, for example, buy some equipment from the United States and use their country to produce more efficiently. On the other hand, we have some issues such as, for example, so people they come to the United States, they are very qualified, and we have this issue with Americans. So for example, Americans say that immigrants they're taking their jobs, and also developing countries they're losing those qualified people that could help the country to have stability, to grow. And finally, one thing that is a big issue is, for example, exploitation. So for example, let's say a American country has a factory in China, and there they, because like the labor is cheaper, and there people work 10-12 hours and receive $1 per day. So that's a few things that we have to deal with. So finally, the last topic is regarding the future of the United States. So the last years was very challenging to everyone's, but although the United States had suffered with the COVID, the economy is still strong. And although we hear a lot about recession, inflation, and also like we have the war of Ukraine war that made the gas here to be way more expensive, I think that the future is gonna be bright. So I think the country has chance to keep growing. So I mean, in the past like months, the numbers like the economy numbers was not that great, but for now we start seeing like some positive numbers. And also I think we have like some factors that might influence that will make the economy grow again. So for example, one thing that the COVID brought that is very positive is like the remote job. So now people has a different perception of job. So for example, people can work from home. A lot of people are working with the internet. We have like influencers that make a lot of money, but also like apps such as DoorDash, we have Uber, we have like Amazon seller, in which people just need like their cell phone and they can make money. So for example, Amazon seller, you can make an app like in 5 minutes, and a lot of people are making a good money with this app. So that's the interesting thing. Another factor is related with consumption. So In 2026, we are going to have like the World Cup here in Canada and Mexico, and this will bring like a lot of people here. So the tourism is going to increase and consumption as well. And I think a lot of businessmen, they will find ways to create new business, to invite more people, to make a lot of profit during this time. And of course, we also have like the technology that will always, it is always helpful, and it's gonna be interesting to see how it's gonna be on the next 10 years, but for sure it's gonna help with the economy and to make things more efficient. And then let's see. Well, as a conclusion, I think the future is gonna be bright. Yes, for sure, the country is still suffering from the impacts of the COVID, and we have a lot of issues, but the United States is a huge country. It has like in territory and population and economy, and I think a lot of people still see this country as the land of opportunities. So so I think even though we have issues, the country are slowly recovering from it. It's not gonna be like next month. It's gonna be stable, but I think by little by little, the country is getting better. In 4 years, we are gonna have like the World Cup. The technology is improving, and I think those factors will definitely help the country to recover faster. So yes, that's it. Thank you.